Hey, I want to speak to you like someone who spent years chasing good enough sound before realizing you deserve full cinematic impact. A few months ago I was still using a basic receiver, hoping a TV's speakers or a simple stereo setup would do the job. Then I plugged in the AVR-X3800H, and suddenly every movie, every song, every game felt alive. Sound became dimensional. Deep. Precise in a way that hits you in the chest. Not subtle. Not half measures. Real. You know that moment when you watch a big movie and think, this should sound like the cinema. If you're even considering this receiver, you don't settle for Cinemalite. You're someone who cares about full immersion, who hears when a soundtrack lacks depth, when explosions feel flat, when ambience doesn't wrap you. The AVR-X3800H is built for people who want sound that respects the moment. Before you go deeper, check the price and availability. A receiver this capable doesn't sit around forever. There was a moment when I realized my old gear was holding me back. Watching a movie on mute-flat audio, or playing a game where you couldn't feel the footsteps, the explosions, the environment. That's when you know you've outgrown compromise. You want richness, presence, impact. Plugging an AVR-X3800H felt like opening a door to something I didn't know I was missing. Voices had weight. Sound effects felt layered. Music, even tracks I'd heard 100 times, echoed with clarity and depth like new. Movies felt alive. Horror, scarier. Action, heavier. Ambient scenes, immersive. I connected multiple speakers, even subwoofers, and suddenly the room stopped being a living room. It became a theater. With Dolby Atmos, DTS, IMAX Enhanced or Oro 3D support, this thing doesn't just push audio. It paints with sound, three-dimensional, overhead layers of depth that place you inside the scene rather than just watching it. Every corner of your room fills. Every whisper sounds as alive as a scream. Everyday use becomes addictive. Watching a film late at night, you don't just listen, you feel it. Gaming sessions, you hear every footstep, every ambient cue, every immersive detail. Music, whether classical or bass-heavy, hits you with presence and nuance. Streaming movies, connecting gaming consoles, even just browsing, the receiver quietly waits, ready to turn any source into something cinematic. If you care about sound like that, glance at the price again. These windows of opportunity don't stay open long. You might think, do I really need all this power? But think back to every time you felt that gap, the lack of definition, the flatness, the unrealized potential of a great scene or track. Settling shorter sounds feels cheap in the moment, but regret builds fast. Once you hear what's possible, you don't go back willingly. What surprised me most was how adaptable it is. Heavy action movie with overhead explosions, atmospheric score with subtle surround, guitar-rich songs with deep bass, it handled them all without flinch. Balanced, powerful, respectful of detail. Clean enough for music, raw enough for movie soundtracks, and precise enough for immersive gameplay. Owning it changes how you sit in your room. It turns your living space into a cinema. It transforms gaming or movie nights into full-bodied experiences. It reminds you that entertainment deserves more than simple audio and that you're the kind of person who values, feels like real, over, just okay. Rich enough to fill your space, dynamic enough to handle any soundtrack, powerful enough to drive big speakers, versatile enough for movies, games, music, immersive enough to change how you listen. Only slight caveat, to truly unlock its power, a solid speaker setup matters. And if you try to run it with cheap or minimal speakers, you'll only scratch the surface of what it can do. Comparison stops being useful when you know what you need. You already sense how movies and games should feel. This receiver doesn't aim for good enough. It delivers what you deserve. If it feels right, lock it in while stock lasts.